Cover macarons like you've never tasted before at Nicolette's Macarons in Plymouth. Pick up a box of elegant French macarons conveniently located right off Highway 169. They're perfect for special gifts, corporate events, or even just yourself. Stop in today or order online at nicolettesmacarons.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. In the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. In the afternoon drive in the nighttime hours in Seattle, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. And, of course, in BAM, Blue Amp Media at blueamp.co on Substack. That's blueamp.co on Substack. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Thursday. Guest-free today, but I have a feeling I'm going to be fine. I have a feeling I'm going to be just fine with the things I got to talk about. Hello, Patrick. How are we today?
Very slow news day today.
No, nothing major going on. Nothing major going on. I did do my grocery run today, and once again, I do find it fascinating. You can learn a lot about society and how things are going with your economy and stuff like this by going to the grocery store. And, I will say it's been better. It was better today. There had been some times of going in there and they're like, I don't want to say empty shelves, but pretty sparse shelves. How about I say it like that on certain products? But today it was a little bit better. I don't know how this 15% tariff thing is going to do. Already some states are threatening to sue it. So I imagine it's not even going to go into place until they get a ruling from the Supreme Court saying, hey, we told you no, because that's what the ruling is going to be. So it'll have to be there. But yeah, God, I mean, the crazy thing, this was a light week for us. We already had, we didn't need to get a lot of staple stuff. I didn't need to get olive oil or flour or something like that. I already had that at home. And so I didn't get many main things. Had a lot of main courses already ready to go. It still somehow was over $200 freaking dollars. I'm like, how? It's crazy. I remember when I had a kid, when we had my son, and he was, 2-3 years old, right before my first daughter was born. And we go to the grocery store and be like $175 for all three of us. And you're like, how, maybe we can sell a kidney or something like that. Now it's like just me and my wife. And I'm like, I mean, it's not like I'd not eaten filet mignon, although I would. I mean, come on. I'd have them like chicken nuggets. I mean, they'd be delicious. Anyway, so there's that. But you know what? No matter what, no matter how your day is going, no matter what your day is like, it's guarantee you right now, it's not as bad as Kristi Noem's, because Donald Trump fired Kristi Noem today. He's trying to make it seem like we're going to shift her over to the different department. No, she got canned. How bad do you have to be fired by Donald Trump? Let me put it in perspective for you. Currently, Brainworm McGee, the Health and Human Services Director, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is over there basically going, rub the measles in your eyes. And you're like, oh my God. And he is like, he's getting pats on the back. Smallpox is tasty. What? What did you just say? Stop it. That is okay. I'm going to go do another erotic video with Kid Rock drinking milk in a sauna. What's wrong with you people? The labor secretary has already been caught having an affair with one of her staff members, and her husband, by the way, cannot even go into the Department of Labor building because he sexually harassed two members of the labor staff. She's still hired. Oh my God. I mean, Lutnick is taking his kids to a lunch on Epstein Island. Eee. He's still hired. It tells you how bad Kristi Noem was. I think when Tillis went off on her, and I posted this and we played this actually, when Tillis went off on her, the Republican from North Carolina, who's not running again, which once again frees him up to actually be a legitimate, politician, once again, not betrothed to Trump. And he called out her judgment so pitch perfectly. I think that was the end. There's a lot being said about this, and I'll get into this a little bit. about this ad campaign that she did that apparently no one in the White House knew about it. And when she was testifying about it, she said that Trump authorized it, and it does not sound like that is the case. And that seems to have been that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, once again, this would not be a Trump administration event without it being absolutely spectacular in how it happened. In the spectacular in the horrific sense for most people, but for us, we get a relish in one element of this. She was actually speaking at a conference in Nashville, Tennessee, as she was being fired. If you ever want an example of how you were fired and you weren't, this wasn't something that was, hey, we're gonna move you over to this new position. I'll get to that too here in a second. It's that. Trump fired Noam. By the way, Christy, love from Minnesota. You messed with the wrong freaking state, you freaking idiot. You dumb idiot. Hey, maybe they'll let you keep your F plane, man, where you can go clang, 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 goes the trolley, the train with the plane with the bed that you're having sex with Corey Lewandowski in. Maybe they'll let you keep that. Sure, it's a secret. It's like this, the sun's a secret. Come on, man. Anyway, Kristi Noem has been fired as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, ending her year-long tenure in an agency that is leading in mass deportation efforts and anti-immigration campaign that's target thousands of immigrants and their families. Trump nominated Oklahoma Senator and basically human beef jerky Mark Wayne Mullen to replace her. Her departure date is effective March 31st. A few more flights on that plane. The president made his announcement on Truth Social while Noam was in the middle of speaking at a conference in Nashville. Noam has served us well, the president wrote. Was it in crayon? She will be named Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, according to the president, who described the role as a new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. Shield of the Americas. Okay. Somebody has been reading comic books. Okay. I'm just going to say, we do not have a superhuman powered team. Okay. There is no Hall of Justice. I know there's a Hall of Injustice. That's the White House. Ba-ding! But I mean, come on. Oh, God, if the plane is a rocket, well, never mind. The initiative will be formally announced on Saturday. So she's being appointed to a position they haven't even announced yet. So this is basically, they're trying to find a way for her to, I don't know, go out to the gravel pit with dignity. Hey, Christy, let's go for a drive. Hey, look at that view. I thank Christy for her service at Homeland. Now we're going to go take her out to the gravel pit with a goat. We're excited about the opportunity. Mullen sold the Independent. I think Mullen is, he's got his head so far between Trump's cheeks that he's a obvious choice. But I also think that this was the reality is that the FEMA stuff really had burned a lot of bridges with Republicans. And this whole thing where she was like anything, what was it, over $20,000 or was it $100,000? Needless to say, she had to sign off on everything. And once again, she's never in her office to sign off on these things. She's off on the F plane having sex with Corey Lewandowski every time she can get. And so, she basically, FEMA had come to an absolute standstill. That was Tillis's big argument. He was so mad at her because of the FEMA relief that North Carolina was supposed to get. And remind her, one of the things that was the reason why people in these states turned towards Trump in 2024 was because they said that Biden, who had actual FEMA on the ground and was helping people, was not doing enough. And Biden was actually showing up with money and the agency, at least. Kristi Noem was basically saying, it sucks to be you. I've got things I need to buy. Noem was confirmed in the Senate by a vote of 59-34 last January, which does mean some idiot Democrats voted for her. Under Nome, DHS secured mammoth budget to expand detention centers and rapidly hire federal immigration enforcement officers. We've seen them in Minneapolis, St. Paul. They hadn't come up to snuff. They surged into American cities with brutal force. Once again, having seen that, jailed tens of thousands of people into detention camps across the country. We had seen that as well. Initial reports to her imminent departure followed 2 days of combated hearings at Congress, where the secretary faced bipartisan frustration over the fatal shootings of 2 protesters in Minnesota and her handling of multi-million-dollar contracts for the advertising campaign, she was prominently featured. Now, no one should be surprised by this because, okay, I'm not in South Dakota, but I'm in Minnesota, and we are kind of border that state, and it's not a very well-run state. South Dakota is fairly poorly run, and she did that same thing before. She basically, did this whole thing where she took a whole bunch of money, I think it was money for emergency management, and did an entire ad campaign about, I'm Kristi Noem, I'm doing this job, and I'm doing this job. She thinks she's a celebrity. She wants to be on The Real Housewives. She has the plane for it already, let's be honest about it. I mean, but this should not be a surprise. She pulled this stunt over at the Department of Homeland Security. The contracts appear to be the final straw for the president. Trump said that he did not sign off on the $200 million ad campaign. One day after Noem testified that the president supported it, I never knew anything about it, he told Reuters. Noem, who's is a defendant in countless lawsuits against her administration, attempts to rapidly arrest, detain, and deport tens of thousands of people, is the first cabinet member to be forced out of the administration since Trump returned to the White House last year. And once again, I want to make sure you understand how bad you have to be fired by Trump. Sean Duffy had planes falling out of the sky left and right when he took over, and he still wasn't fired. You've got Pete Hegseth. Well, Hegseth is just a walking date rape drug at this point. He's not getting fired. I mean, they love him. I mean, it's amazing how bad you have to be for them to fire you. And yet Kristi Noem lived up to that expectation. She is one of the worst human beings I have ever seen in my entire life. I am talking one of the worst. I mean, I'm talking, sure, she's not Jim Jones and she didn't, do that, but would I could see her in 4 or 5 years having her own little camp out in the middle of someplace. I'm glad Minnesota took care of you, because that was one of the things I was very kind of happy to hear in the testimony that happened over the last few days. The amount of even Republicans who were like, wait a second here. What did you do in Minneapolis? We're not for this. We're not going to let this to go. And yeah, so Minnesota gives you a big old kiss. Like I said, take the old bed in the plane for another ride once or twice before you're officially gone. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of entertainment. Make your reservations for a parade of international, national, and local artists in the main stage showroom, the intimate Dunsmore Jazz Room, or outdoors at the seasonal Belvedere Under the Stars space. Or enjoy Maggie's Piano Lounge. Enjoy 4-star food and drinks with first-class supper club service. What are you waiting for? Go to croonersmn.com for more information and schedule. That's croonersmn.com.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. The end of winter is finally on the horizon, and you're going to start thinking about all that nasty crud that's built up in your home over these last few months. Call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to help get you an early start on the spring cleanup. Zero Res removes winter's buildup and lingering odors, giving your home a fresh, spring-ready feel. This month, get Zero Resified from Minnesota's #1 carpet cleaner. Buy one room, get another free. Buy another room of carpet cleaning, get another room of carpet done for free. Get the picture? Also this month, get a free size upgrade on every whole home air duct cleaning package. Don't you love when you buy your favorite beverage and get a free size upgrade? That's what Zero Res is doing this month with their whole home air duct cleaning package. Start spring cleaning with a free upgrade and pay less for more fresh. Call Zero Res right now, 9520-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward, spells the same. Zero Res.
Families, get ready for Dinosaur World Live, a thrilling interactive show at Children's Theater Company, March 3rd through April 5th. This hit show is the perfect blend of science, storytelling, and spectacular live theater. These remarkably lifelike dinosaurs move, they roar, and yes, the mighty T-Rex towers before your eyes. This is edge-of-your-seat excitement, followed by the chance to meet a dinosaur up close. Dinosaur World Live opens March 3rd. Tickets at childrenstheater.org.
Go girls, go, 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 go. We girls gonna take control. You boys better know, no, no. We girls gonna run this show. Go girls, go, 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 go.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you here on the Thursday, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So this next thing might take the next two segments because there is something we have to kind of dive into a little bit here about not only this ship that we torpedoed out in the Indian Ocean off of Sri Lanka, but also one element of the story tied in with something else that Tom Hartman has brought up that makes me kind of wonder what exactly, well, I don't think it wonders anymore. I think we know exactly how we got into the Iran war. And it's one of two scenarios, and I think we can definitively say it's one of these two scenarios. But I'll get to that here in just a little bit. Let me start off, though, with the Iranian warship. It was torpedoed by a U.S. submarine. We saw the footage of it. It went boom big time and sank fairly quickly. And we talked about this yesterday. It's like, wait a second here. You guys didn't – the submarine could have easily surfaced. Many of those submarines can easily, hold survivors on the deck under armed guards until you can take them as what they're called, prisoners of war. Now, I was in the military, and there are certain very specific rules that you have to follow in regard to prisoners of war. And the reality is that they're not doing that. There's reason why we have these rules, mainly so that when our guys get captured, which might end up happening, then you can guarantee they'll get a basic level of decent treatment. When we blasted that ship, the Iranian ship in the Indian Ocean, the point I made yesterday was there was no attempt. They basically, the whole thing was watch them drown and applaud and laugh and ha, ha, ha. That's war. And initially I was of the mindset, kind of to a point it is. I mean, you declared war on these guys and there's a target out there, but you generally try to save the people that are in the water. And the U.S. has set the standard of, nope, they were all to drown. And if not for the Sri Lankan Navy coming off their coast, they basically were able to save 30 some of those people. And now I imagine the United States' embassy in Sri Lanka has said, hey, we want those people after you've done them, you're taking care of them after you've healed them up. We want those people. They're prisoners of war. And I imagine Sri Lanka is going to be like, you know what? No, we're not going to give them to you, which there's another problem is now any intelligence we could get from them, we likely won't get from them because my guess is Sri Lanka has zero tolerance for what we had done. I mean, as a matter of fact, if you don't know, what has happened is playing fairly negatively across most of the world. And there's a specific reason why. And this is something you've not heard here, but has started to trickle into news cycles in this country. The Iranian warship that was torpedoed by the U.S. submarine in the Indian Ocean this week had just departed Indian waters, where just days earlier it completed a port visit and multinational naval exercise hosted by New Delhi. The incident has ignited political controversy in India and left the government of Prime Minister Modi without a public response. Sri Lanka's Navy recovered 87 bodies, rescued 32 survivors from the Iris Dena as of Thursday, with around 10 sailors still unaccounted for. A second Iranian vessel entered Sri Lankan exclusive economic zone in the aftermath of the sinking. The officials there have not identified the ship or explained its presence. Basically, from one story I saw, I think it was the BBC, the ship came into port and said, please let us stay here. We're looking for safe harbor. And Sri Lanka, is trying to stay neutral here, but I don't think they're necessarily, with the experience now of, oh yeah, the U.S. is just blasting anyone that gets out of international waters. My guess is they're going to allow them to stay, as long as they probably stay on the boat. Exercise Milan, M-I-L-A-N, is India's flagship biennial multilateral naval drill. Okay, this is basically model UN with boats, okay? It is. It's designed to foster maritime cooperation among the participating nations. It's model UN with boats, okay? That's what it is. This is the 13th edition of it, so it's not something that it's unknown. It does happen. And it runs concurrently with the International Fleet Review 2026, which was running from February 15th to the 25th, drawing representatives from 74 countries and 18 foreign warships. So once again, you have a multicultural naval jamboree in India. They've done this 13 times. This is why that Iranian ship was there. It wasn't, as it was told by Hegseth, implied greatly that this was an Iranian ship looking for boats to take down. That's the narrative that they put out, that this boat was somehow on the prowl. And no, it was coming back from a glorified ceremony in India. And there's another element of that which you need to understand. Where I said they had 18 foreign warships, one of the rules of this event is that, yeah, you've got your guns because they're attached to the deck of the boat, but you can't bring any ammunition with you. None of these boats that attended, all these warships, none of them knowingly had any ammunition. These were unarmed ships. This was an unarmed ship that the U.S. Navy blasted out of the water and killed quite a few people. Iranian Naval Rear Admiral attended that and held talks with the India's chief of naval staff. If you look at a map, it's not that far away from Iran to go down to India. They basically presided over the opening ceremony under the event's theme, United Through Oceans. Wow. Milan concluded February 25th was in the ship was headed home to Iran when a U.S. fast attack submarine fired a single Mark 48 torpedo into her hull on March 4th in international waters, roughly 25 miles south of Sri Lanka. The U.S. Navy sent no surface warship to Milan. Its only official presence was a P-88A Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft from Patrol Squadron 4. So there was a U.S. plane involved here, which means the U.S. knew what the parameters were of the ship. The guided missile destroyer USS Pinckney actually was slated to be there, but was diverted to Singapore on February 15th. And remember that, February 15th, before the exercise began, a reason the Navy was not publicly disclosed, has not publicly disclosed. They haven't really revealed why that naval ship went to Singapore, as opposed to do this model UN with boats in India. But the U.S. knew that any ship there had to be unarmed. no weapons, or they'll have the guns that are attached to the boat, but you didn't have anything you could fire off of them. That was the rules, which starts to paint a very different picture than what has been told about what that ship was doing. More on this in a second. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
I'm standing up for the middle class. Tom Hartman here on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
With the excitement of March Madness coming, popcorn, that's Popped corn.com, needs to be in your starting lineup. Enjoy your favorite flavor of popcorn, gourmet popcorn, like cheese made with real cheese, the classic mix, or the featured flavor of shamrock caramel. And many college teams are featured on Popped Corn's tins. You can ship your team tin across the USA. Find your team at poppedcorn.com and enter in the discount code MATT to get 10% off your order. That's discount code MATT at poppedcorn, Popped corn.com.
Hey, Chanhassen and Eden Prairie, it's Alex with Buzz Cut Mowing. Why wake up early, freeze, and shovel snow when I can handle it for you? I provide fast, reliable snow removal so your driveway and sidewalk stay clear, safe, and stress-free all winter long. Relax, enjoy your morning coffee, and let me do the heavy lifting. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com today and make this winter easier, warmer, and worry-free with Buzz Cut Mowing, because nobody likes shoveling snow.
What if I told you that toxic pesticides from crop seeds and lawns have spread all over Minnesota's lands and water, devastating wildlife and posing risks to our health? Well, it's true. But a coalition of Minnesota farmers, community members, anglers, and more are taking action to protect our state from neurotoxic pesticides. To learn more and get involved, visit cleanerseed.org. That's cleanerseed.org. And tune to Food Freedom Radio.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 55, tonight cloudy with a low around 44, and Friday rain with a high around 56. Dinosaur World is taking over Children's Theater Company for an immersive tour where you can feel the roar. Get ready to face off against a massive T-Rex and see what it feels like to get sneezed on by a Triceratops at Dinosaur World. Dinosaur World runs through April 5th, and you can find tickets and more info at childrenstheater.org.
This is AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota.
Broadcasting in the afternoon drive and nighttime hours in Seattle, 1150 AM KKNW in Chicago. Love that city. WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. Blue Ant Media worldwide. Yeah, sorry. Blueamp.co on Substack. That's blueamp.co on Substack. Where, by the way, Tequila Talk is coming up here with Cliff after my show on Substack, so make sure you're enjoying that. And, of course, here in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. By the way, I'm just reading it during the break there. Interesting point. They're saying the Republicans are so scared of this upcoming midterm election that the only state that they were willing to get somebody for Homeland Security from was Oklahoma, which is the only state in the union that had every county vote Republican this last election. So it kind of gives you an idea of how the tide has turned. I might have something on that a little bit later on, but I want to get back to this story because this is a pretty big deal. So once again, the story was that boat, the Iranian frigate that we torpedoed in the Indian Ocean, was on the prowl, looking to shoot things, looking to take things out. And the truth is, it wasn't. It was coming from basically a ceremonial visit to India, where they were not supposed to have any ammunition. So this was an unarmed vessel that was just basically doing a build through the world thing, had no weapons. It didn't have any guns. It had anything. It was basically target practice at an oil tanker. Well, I'd say that, but oil tankers at least probably have guys with guns on them at least. This was just target practice at these guys. And then the United States left them all in the water to drown. And yeah, so this is the fact that this was not what they've said it is. And that there's a lot of people who are saying technically this is a war crime, that this was a ship that was flying under a flag of international community, and it was unarmed. And so basically it'd be like, I mean, I got news for you. They're blowing up fishing boats down in the Caribbean, and those people have nothing to do with drugs. They don't care. But that's kind of the deal. 3 days after the Milan event ended, the U.S. and Israeli launched the Operation Epic Fury. Iris Dena was then still in transit at the time. India's silence has drawn sharp criticism domestically because, once again, this was India's naval get-together event. And and Modi has basically been under a lot of grief because he's not said a thing. And trust me when I say most of the world is pretty upset about us doing this, to basically sink an unarmed vessel and just sit there and laugh and laugh and laugh as we're watching the people drown. It's drawn sharp criticism. Opposition politicians are arguing Modi's government is abdicating its responsibilities as a self-described net security provider for the Indian Ocean. Opposition leader Rahul Gandhi accused Modi of surrendering India's strategic independence at a crucial moment. This U.S. action has enormous implications for India as well, but it is shocking that there has been no official response to it till now. This is from the Congress of India, Ramesh, a congressman there. Never before has the Indian government looked so timid and fearful. And they do. I can tell you right now, I think a lot of people, the Sri Lankans are kind of torqued off about this. Like, what are you guys doing? And like I said, I mean, although Sri Lanka has officially adopted a neutral stance on this, my guess is, A, the 32 Iranian crew members they rescued are not going to be in Americans' hands, and that other boat is probably going to get safe harbor there, probably have to stay on the boat, but they'll be able to stay in that port to prevent the United States from blasting them out because they have no weapons on them. So, it's a very different story than what actually did happen. What we've been told by the government has basically 0% in, I mean, outside of the boat being an Iranian boat and the United States being the people that shot it, that's it. Everything else about it is basically being covered up. So that's a pretty big problem. But there was something else, and I want to go back to some points in this that kind of I felt were somewhat interesting. Now, the first is that once again, the U.S. knew that this was an unarmed ship get-together. They knew this because there was supposed to be one of the ships was supposed to be there, and it basically wasn't. The McNeil was supposed to be there, and they sent it off to Singapore on February 15th. On February 15th, they sent it off to Singapore. But we still had a naval plane, the P-8A Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft from Patrol Squadron 4 was there. So they knew all these ships that were there, they were there unarmed. There's no argument they can put out there that they did not know that. But that date, February 15th, that does seem a little bit odd that a fairly recognizable maritime event. At that point, we are not at war with Iran. That is 2 weeks beforehand. But yet, somehow, some way, the United States moves the one ship we had that was going to be part of this goodwill event out of the area 2 weeks before we start bombing Iran. Why I find this interesting is I'm going to go to Tom Hartman. Now, for many people out there, Tom Hartman, of course, is a great guy, phenomenal. I've had the privilege of chatting with him a few times. He's one of the smartest human beings I've ever met. He's got a radio show that's on many of the stations. So if you have a chance, listen to him. I really recommend Tom Hartman. He actually has a piece where he's starting to speculate whether or not Jared Kushner actually set the Iranians up under the argument of nuclear peace talks to be attacked. So I'm going to go to Tom Hartman's argument here. Here's what we know. The third round of nuclear talks between the United States and Iran wrapped up in Geneva on February 26th and 27th. Okay, so this is the 28th, the morning of the 28th, we bombed them. At 2 a.m., we bombed them. So the days beforehand in Geneva on the 26th and the 27th, the Thursday and Friday, there was talks going on. The Omani foreign minister, who'd been mediating the talks for months, told CBS News on the eve of the bombing that a deal was within our reach, that Iran had fully given in to American demands and agreed it would never produce a nuclear material for a bomb or an ICBM capable of striking the United States. Now, once again, this isn't the Iranians doing this. This is the mediator from Oman who was there and said, oh, yeah, looks like we got a deal here. So coming into Friday, there's a deal on the table, and a fourth round of talks had been scheduled for Vienna the following week to work through the technical details following the final discussion in Tehran. The Iranian foreign minister told reporters his team was ready to stay and keep talking for as long as it took. So there was a peace deal in place. And the main thing that Trump has insisted that they had to give up all nuclear. They had agreed to do so. Okay. And once again, this is not the Iranians. This is the guy who was mediating it saying, yeah, they'd agree to do this. Less than 48 hours after those talks in Switzerland concluded, the bombs began to fall. On the morning of February 28th, Iran's Supreme National Security Council was gathered together in their offices for meetings. That body, the one that manages Iran's nuclear dossier and makes the regime most consequential decisions, is exactly where you would expect the Iranian leadership to be sitting after a round of talks with America that their own foreign minister was calling historic. So basically, this whole thing of we couldn't trust them, no, the reason why they were there in that building which we bombed was because they were taking this seriously and they were trying to come to grip, get the technical stuff that they needed to get done for this before the bomb started to fly. They were almost certainly deliberating whether to accept or reject Jared Kushner's American proposal, because Jared has been involved in this the entire time. According to the Wall Street Journal, American and Israeli intelligence had verified that senior Iranian leaders would be gathered at the three locations that could be struck simultaneously. How they knew that, is the journal carefully noted, is still unknown. So they knew, well, my guess is going to be is, people were talking to each other. So what's the next step? Oh, we're going to go meet today, and they're going to go meet with these people over in this building. And they're going to go meet over there. We knew because they were taking it seriously that they didn't want to go to war, that they were going to get rid of their Iranian nuclear deposits. Iran's entire decision-making apparatus was assembled in one place, most likely because they were in the middle of an active negotiation with Jared Kushner. The talks had created a predictable, intelligible window. So basically, we knew where they were going to be because logically that's where they would go, because they were serious about giving up their nuclear program. Diplomats who were part of the earlier rounds of talks now tell reporters that the Iranian side had come to believe they'd been misled, and that Tehran now views the Witkoff-Kushner negotiations as, in their own words, a ruse designed to keep Iran from expecting and preparing for the surprise strikes. That's not the assessment of Iranian state media spinning a narrative after a military defeat. It's a conclusion of people who were in the room speaking to the American journalists on the record. So it's the people that were helping negotiate this that said, no, the Iranians now think this was all just a made-up thing. We also know the Trump regime explanations of why the attacks happened when they did have when they did have collapsed into open contradiction. Secretary of State Rubio initially told reporters the U.S. struck because Israel was going to attack anyway, and Iran would have retaliated against American forces. Trump then went on television and he said that it was, he might have forced Israel's hands. The two most senior officials in the administration told two diametrically opposing stories within 48 hours of each other, and neither story explains why the diplomacy at the Omani mediator called substantially successful, that eventually got Americans everything that they had wanted, was abandoned without the final round. Were the talks ever meant to succeed on their own terms, or were they simply a setup to destroy the Iranian leadership, even if they gave us anything we wanted? So, I also put this together with the fact that the Pinckney, the USS Pinckney, was supposed to be part of an Iranian or the Indian naval jamboree with an Iranian boat, and the fact that they, without explanation, kind of scooted away and got away from them. And the only thing that was on the ground was a plane. And once again, this was actually even before the war had been declared. Okay, so I think I'm going to get into some speculation here. But from what I have been reading, I think it's pretty clear one of two scenarios actually did happen. Scenario one is exactly what the Omani mediator is putting forward, that this was all a ruse, that the United States never wanted to have a peace deal with Iran, that this was all a setup, and they got to this point, even though the Iranians were willing to give up their nuclear program and do all these things, they basically were just doing this. They were just leading them on to get them to a point where they were all amassed in one building and be easy pickings. The shipping of the one boat away kind of leads to that theory. One of the things from yesterday we talked about was the staff sergeant, or sergeant first class, who was killed in Minnesota. She was saying that they had been shipped. She was one of the reasons why she and these others were killed was they were taken to housing off the base that was not as protected as the rest of the base was in, I think it was Kuwait. And that actually was a few days beforehand, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of backs that up, that the United States was anticipating already, even though that Jared was supposedly working on some sort of peace deal, that was never the plan. So there's one. The second one, I think this is the one. I actually think this is the one. Benjamin Netanyahu wants everyone in Iran dead. He wants everyone in the Gaza dead. He wants everyone in Lebanon dead. I mean, that is who that cat is. He has got a bloodthirst like I've not seen on this planet in a while. And he just, the idea that the United States was that close to a peace deal with Iran so infuriated him that he knew, well, there's all going to be in this one building, and that Rubio was telling the truth, that Israel said, we're going to hit these guys no matter what. You can either be with us or you can be on your own, but you're going to be blamed for it anyway, because it's going to look like it was an inside job from the negotiations. And so the United States kind of went, okay, I guess we're at war now. I think that's the scenario. Now, once again, I'm not saying Israel. I'm saying Netanyahu. Netanyahu's his own person. He has his own agenda, and I think that is what happened. And all of this stuff right now is just a dog and pony show out there to try to make it seem like the United States has got some sort of focused idea of what in the F they're actually doing, and they don't have a freaking clue what they're doing right now, and that is terrifying. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
I was a ghost, I was alone.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Hi, I'm Mary T. I'm a proud supporter of AM 950 because this station shares the values that I care about most: community, connection, and making a difference. Just like AM 950, I believe in using our energies, our resources, and our voices to lift up others. That's why I started the Mary T. Scholar Program at the University of Minnesota College of Education and Human Development, providing graduate students with internships internationally. For over the past 10 years, our students have served communities in Laos, Cambodia, Nepal, India, Cameroon, and Thailand, gaining experience and helping people in ways that really make a difference. Supporting AM 950 fosters conversation, awareness, and action in our communities. It's about shared values and believing that together we can make a difference. Visit MaryTinc.com to learn more about the work that we do.
At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, our job is to help you find a place for fire. Our displays include over 180 models in diverse styles, and we have over 35 burning displays. Come and experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Some say there are only two seasons in Minnesota, road construction and winter. Hi, this is Laura, and I agree there are two seasons in Minnesota, summer and fireplace season. I bought my wood stove for Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces in 2005, and every season after summer comes the time when we fire up the wood stove, get out our favorite music, and discover the warmth of fire. Our dog Pumpkin remembers the fire too. He stations himself right there, legs up in the air, just enjoying the warmth of the fire. With the wood stove, we are able to keep the main area of the house toasty warm, while the thermostat is set at an energy-efficient 64 degrees. Discover your fireplace season. Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces today.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Families, get ready for Dinosaur World Live, a thrilling interactive show at Children's Theater Company March 3rd through April 5th. This hit show is the perfect blend of science, storytelling, and spectacular live theater. These remarkably lifelike dinosaurs move, they roar, and yes, the mighty T-Rex towers before your eyes. This is edge-of-your-seat excitement, followed by the chance to meet a dinosaur up close. Dinosaur World Live opens March 3rd. Tickets at childrenstheater.org.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. It's sure. I mean, at this point, it's clear that it's one of those two. Either the United States was basically just deceiving them the entire time and just was trying to get them to the final point where they could, blow them up, or Israel so not Israel, Netanyahu so infuriated by the idea that the United States actually might get a peace with Iran. And once again, Benjamin Netanyahu wants all 92 million Iranians dead. That's just who that cat is, man. He got so infuriated. He said, we're going to fire out. We're going to have strikes against the Iranians, and they're going to blame you anyway. So, if that, and I think that's the case. And I think that's when you realize Benjamin Netanyahu is making our foreign policy decisions for us. And I don't think that's a good idea. And so, yeah, but we'll have to see. I will say there is, like I said, there's a lot of this, which is they're trying to figure out what they're freaking doing as they're going. Today, I'm looking at the markets. The markets are down 784 points in the stock market. It was down actually a lot more. But once again, what happened? All of a sudden, a flush of money starts pouring into the markets, even though it doesn't make any sense. And the reason why it doesn't make any sense is that oil is now above $80 a barrel. Oil is now over $80 a barrel, and all it took for it to scoot that, $7.5 more? Let's see. Let me get the official number. It finished just below 79. So they basically, but still, it was up. Well, it's still trading too. It's up $5 basically at this point. And the reason why that was, and it was up at one point to $83 a barrel. The reason why is because Iran said, we're going to start shooting at tankers. And there you go. All of a sudden, we can't get the oil out of the Persian Gulf. Well, that's going to start jacking the price of this stuff up. And that happened. The stock market should have reacted to the oil industry, which once again is a major contributor to our expenses, shooting up like this. And they're trying to manipulate the market. So that's going on. But there were some other things too I wanted to mention about going on in regards to the war here, and just some things that we need to kind of be focusing on and not losing grasp of, because this is a mess. First of all, Trump now says he is going to be involved in choosing Iran's next supreme leader, and the U.S. and Israel hammer the country on a 6th day. You're not. It's just, where do you think you are with this? Do you think you're at a point where they're, please, Donald Trump, stop it. We'll do whatever you want. You think that that's the case? They're not going to do it. And yeah, you can threaten to kill anyone, and you might have some success in anyone that takes over. But that country is going to run through 100 or 150 or so viable candidates to lead Iran before they basically say maybe we should just start working with them. So you got years of this before you get to choose the next leader. And then, by the way, just looking at a little bit of American history, American choosing the leader of Iran has tended not to be a good thing. Okay, that's kind of the reason we're in the situation we're in right now. But hey, Iran kept up its retaliatory attacks on Israel, American bases, and countries around the region. Trump has ruled out the front runner, the Khamenei's the kid, to replace his father, who was killed in the opening strikes of the war. Trump's comments to the American news media via Axios were likely to renew questions about whether the U.S. and Israel seek to overthrow the Islamic Republic or just change its policies, and the conflict has appeared increasingly open-ended. There is a report out that, as Trump has said, this is going to be done in a few weeks. There's actual preparing now for this to at least go until September. So we are going to be at war till September. And that's going to be interesting because this ain't going to get popular. I don't see this turning around and becoming, oh, well, thank God we're doing this. And especially as more and more of our soldiers come home in body bags, I don't think that this is going to, people are going to have the legitimate question of what the F are we doing here? The Iranians know this. One of the biggest mistakes the United States always makes when it comes to foreign policy is thinking that we're the smart ones and everyone else is stupid. And when you look at Captain Dum Dum in the White House right now, that is just a laughable thought process. The Iranians know exactly what the situation is. That's why today, as I mentioned, they threatened to shoot down, to sink a tanker out in the middle of the Straits of Hormuz. They knew exactly what was going to do. And you saw gas prices skyrocket higher. And they'll probably do it tomorrow. They'll probably actually try to hit one of those tankers, and then things will really get scary. And especially if they hit one of the pipelines over there. God, I can only imagine what the markets will do then. They know, but they're doing this for a reason. The Iranian foreign minister is trying to goat Trump into putting ground forces into Iran. This country's military is waiting for the U.S. to send in ground troops into the country, and a possibility that Trump administration has refused to rule out. We are confident that we can confront them, and it'll be a big disaster for them. The foreign minister told NBC News, we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, with any possibility, and we know that we can handle that. Once again, Iran's been planning for that for 50 freaking years. They have been planning for this for 50 years. Well, maybe not 50, like 40, 45. They've been planning for this whole scenario. And a land invasion by the United States. It will not be simple. I think the United States will win. We have pretty good equipment and pretty good soldiers. But we're talking tens of thousands of dead soldiers. Tens of thousands, and likely a draft. The foreign minister said Iran's not requesting a ceasefire, that the country does not see any reason we should negotiate with the U.S. following failed rounds of nuclear talks in the lead up to the joint, thing. Well, failed rounds. No, it sounds like successful rounds, and that the United States decided, okay, well, enough's enough, I guess. We negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked in the middle of our negotiations. So there's no request for a ceasefire by us, and there's no request for negotiations with the U.S. from us. So you're going to have to put troops on the ground. And when all of a sudden you have planefuls of caskets coming home with flags draped over them, that's when this is, I think, he knows what they're doing. They know that public opinion will turn on Trump on this whole thing very quickly. So they're trying to goad us into doing this. And if he's basically stupid enough to do it, well, no, that's Trump. Chicago, Seattle. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul. Bam, hour 2 up next.
Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Next Chapter Booksellers is the perfect destination for indoor winter activities. Cozy up with a book. They have all the bestsellers and new releases. Plus, their booksellers are great at making recommendations. Beyond books, enjoy mind-bending puzzles and family fun board games for those snowy days. And don't miss Next Chapter's in-store events, book clubs, author signings, and children's story time. So stay busy this winter with Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Come on, you know it's true. Work is almost bearable when the Stephanie Miller Show is on. AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. President Trump's fired Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Hai Panjwani has details.
That comes as criticism builds over immigration enforcement. Trump says he'll nominate Oklahoma Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin in her place. Trump made the announcement on social media Thursday, 2 days after Noem faced a grilling on Capitol Hill. Minnesota Democrat Amy Klobuchar asked Noem about comments she made immediately after the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Good in her state.
How about specifically calling them domestic terrorists without any evidence of that?
Sir, ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
One particular point of scrutiny was a $220 million ad campaign featuring Noem that encouraged people in the country illegally to leave voluntarily. Noem told lawmakers that Trump was aware of the campaign in advance, but Trump disputed that in an interview with Reuters. Trump says he'll make Noem a special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Noem is the first cabinet secretary to leave during Trump's second term. Hai Panjwani, Washington.
The U.S. and Israel hammered Iran for a sixth day, while Tehran launched a fresh wave of attacks at Israel and U.S. forces in the region. Karen Shamas has a report.
Plumes of smoke were seen rising across various parts of Tehran on Thursday morning as U.S.-Israeli airstrikes continued to pound the Iranian capital. The Islamic Republic threatened the United States would bitterly regret torpedoing an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean on Wednesday. Iran is launching more missiles at Israel, as Israel said it was moving to intercept them. The Israeli military has also confirmed its continuing strikes in Lebanon against the Iranian-backed Hezbollah militant group. I'm Karen Shamas.
President Trump says he should be involved in choosing Iran's next supreme leader. This after a son of the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei emerged as a frontrunner. On Wall Street, stocks sank after the price of oil spiked to its highest level since 2024. The Dow lost 784 points. This is AP News.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-77.
Hey, Chanhassen and Eden Prairie, it's Alex with Buzz Cut Mowing. Why wake up early, freeze, and shovel snow when I can handle it for you? I provide fast, reliable snow removal so your driveway and sidewalk stay clear, safe, and stress-free all winter long. Relax, enjoy your morning coffee, and let me do the heavy lifting. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com today and make this winter easier, warmer, and worry-free with Buzz Cut Mowing, because nobody likes shoveling snow.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. I've been telling you about Snap Construction, the company AM 950 trusts for all roofing and siding needs. Now that spring is here and summer is around the corner, now is a great time to find out why AM 950 trusts Snap Construction. Ryan, the owner, and his team at Snap Construction have been great to work with, and they have enjoyed working with our listeners.
Hi, this is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners at AM 950. What a great group of people and a great radio station. I personally want to thank all the listeners that we've had the opportunity to work with. At Snap Construction, we look forward to working with many more of you when it comes to your roofing, siding, windows, and insulation. Don't just take Chad's word for it. Google Snap Construction, arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the Twin Cities metro. We led this community with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate. Call today, 612-333-SNAP, 612-333-SNAP, or visit us online, snapconstruction.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 55, tonight cloudy with a low around 44, and Friday rain with a high around 56. Discover macarons like you've never tasted before at Nicolette's Macarons in Plymouth. Pick up a box of elegant French macarons conveniently located right off Highway 169. They're perfect for special gifts, corporate events, or even just yourself. Stop in today or order online at nicolettesmacarons.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here on your Thursday. Good to have you with us. Matt here, Patrick here, of course, AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, as well as on Blue Amp Media at blueamp.co on Substack. Good to have you with us today. Thank God that Christy Noam has a lot of that lip filler in, because, boy, she walked right into a plank. I've had people saying justice for cricket. That's yeah, well done. Of course, if you didn't catch the main story, Christy Noam was fired today. Finally, by Trump. He's putting her in some sort of ceremonial position, but the reality is she is gone. And it seems that the fact that even most of the Republicans on the Senate committee yesterday in the last 2 days, had basically turned on her and that were furious at how she's doing her job. Plus this argument that she had approval for a $220 million ad campaign to feature her on ads across the country was signed off by Trump, and Trump had no idea about it. That seems to be the straw that broke the camel's back. So she is gone. But it's interesting. People are saying, don't think that Senator Mullins, the guy from Oklahoma, hey, Patrick, do you remember when Bernie Sanders had to yell at him because he was threatened to get in a fight with the Teamster?
I do remember that.
Sit down, shut up, act like a senator. It was like, here's Bernie Sanders. And by the way, I was far more scared of Bernie Sanders at that point than I was of Senator Mullen. Oh, God, that was funny. That guy's now in charge of DHS. And people have been making the point and said, you don't understand how many bad people this White House has brought into these organizations. And let me give you this little story here. This one, to give you an idea about this. So an Evangelical University's law school emailed students on Friday this last week, publicizing exciting opportunity to intern with the Department of Labor in D.C. that promised incredible connections that will pay off later and the possibility of a full-time job offers after graduation. This is according to from the Popular Info newsletter. The two most important requirements that you must be aligned politically with Trump and his administration, and you must be willing to work hard, read the email sent by Derek Green, an associate director of the law school. Don't be scared off by transcript requirements. GPA is not a strong factor. If you meet those two requirements, you have a shot. Green's email encouraged students to apply because the person conducting the interviews is a 2025 graduate of Liberty Law School, along with a representative from the White House Liaison Office. Now, once again, I want to make sure we understand Liberty Law School is not a really good law school. It's basically one of these places where, they teach you the law only as conservatives want the law to be taught. And so the law doesn't, it's only this far right one. So it's not one of the prestigious law schools. Plus they're saying your GPA doesn't matter. Plus it doesn't, your intelligence doesn't matter, just that you're aligned with Trump. Did you vote for Trump? Green wrote as one example and providing another. Do you disagree with the president on anything? Green told students that he hoped to have double-digit Liberty Law students enrolled in the program this summer. The email included a message from the former graduate who said applicants must be willing to advance the president's initiatives and deliver wins for the American worker. And she described the position as a political position in which internships will serve the Trump administration for the duration of their internship. So basically, you know what the funny thing about freaking Trump? You know what the funny thing about him? All these guys came into office and talked about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This was just a way to get inferior people into jobs. And it wasn't. It wasn't. But in their warped mind, they thought that anybody that wasn't a white, mostly male, but there's some exceptions. I mean, as long as you basically are subservient to the man, you are okay as a woman. White, male, Christians who basically those are the only people that should be hired for any job, and that anybody that was hired that wasn't a white male Christian was some sort of DEI hire. The truth is that they have created a system where people who in any kind of legitimate job search would never have a chance because they're stupid, dumb idiots. But because they have put this template of, the persecuted Trump supporter that's the most important thing. Are you a white guy that's been persecuted because you like Trump? Well, then we got a job for you. I mean, it's quite literally the entire administration. And I've actually heard this from people I know in DC who are over there right now. And they're like, you would not believe some of the people they are bringing in. Incredibly unqualified people, but people who are loyal to Trump. And the hope is that after Trump is out of office, that they will continue to push Trump's agenda from these positions, working against anyone that's in government. Now, my guess is going to be they're there right now because Trump's there, but the second that he's gone, they'll all scatter like rats on a sinking ship. But it just gives you an idea of when they talk about, so Noam is gone from the Department of Homeland Security. Trust me, there is a mountain of incompetence there, and putting the human beef jerky from Oklahoma in charge of it ain't going to necessarily clean that up. So just, if you're hoping for positivity, I'm not going to be able to give it to you today. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Are you, Patrick, you are a sports fan here. Are you getting excited at all? We are starting to get into the college basketball tournament. It is the best playoff in any sports, is March Madness.
Yeah, certainly the wildest and most unpredictable.
It is. It's crazy, but it's funny because we have the football programs don't want to do too much of expanded out, but by far the gold standard of playoffs of any sport is March Madness. You would think they would want to emulate that, but they don't want to.
Yeah, but I suppose it's easier when you can have, 8 teams inhabit the same building on the same day.
Yeah, true. So I will say, and this is a bit of a local story from Minnesota, Lou Holtz passed away. Were you a fan of Lou Holtz?
I only knew him as an analyst on TV. I mean, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, he was okay. Lou Holtz represents something in Minnesota, which, having lived through it, was a very hard thing to see, but Lou Holtz was a turning point in Minnesota. Now, if you did not know, Lou Holtz is a college football coach. He coached Notre Dame. And was he the last guy to win a title with Notre Dame?
That's correct.
Yeah. So he was, he's considered a legacy there. He was, and before he was at Notre Dame, he was at Minnesota. And Minnesota has an interesting college football history. We were one of the earliest schools to dominate in the 30s and 40s, I believe it was. We had a total of 4 national championships then. And then we won the national championship in 1960 out of the blue. We had a good year and we won the national championship there. So Minnesota has won 5 national football championships, but they hadn't won really anything since then. And Lou Holtz was this hot coach, and he came on in and he immediately changed the mentality. And at that point in the 80s, there was a lot of people who were still they still felt as if Minnesota was one of these premier programs, like Miami at that point, like Nebraska at that point, like Ohio State and Michigan. They were still one there. We needed 1 or 2 seasons to recalibrate, and then we'd be competing for national championships again, because there were still people who remembered the 1960 championship. And they still were enamored with the previous championship. So there's this idea that Minnesota was still a premium football program. And when Notre Dame just came in here, and once again, Minnesota turned around, I think we had what was 10-2 under him, if I remember correctly. We had a great season. I think we finished 2nd or 3rd in the Big Ten. People are like, yeah, this is the beginning. We're going to be the biggest team here. This is when they played over the old Metrodome. And then Notre Dame came on in and they took him away and they brought him out there, and then he goes and wins a national champion out there. And it was at that moment that the reality kind of hit, I think, even the most steadfast Golden Gopher football fan at that point. And that was, oh, we're no longer a premium team. We're a feeder team to these other teams who are the bigger teams, who are the Notre Dames and the Miamis and the Nebraskas at that time. You know, that those were the big teams, and we are now on the outside looking in. And I remember, I mean, there was like a literal depression in this town when Lou Holtz left to go to Notre Dame. I mean, there was like a full-fledged depression. Like, we're never going to ever recover from it. And, you know, that's kind of where they've been ever since. They're kind of one of those teams. They have good seasons. They get 9 wins, sometimes 8 wins, might have an outside chance at a 10-win season at some point. But they're never really going to be competing because they are now considered a feeder team. Now, granted, that can change. Indiana is a prime example of that. But still, with Lou Holtz passing away, I don't want to. A lot of people talk about all the things he did, and great. He was a good coach, and Notre Dame, blah 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 blah. He had one really bad year with the Jets. Did you know that? He coached the freaking Jets, and they were like 3-13. He was gone after that. But yeah, I think you look at what he represents here in Minnesota, and he actually represents the reality of, oh, we're not going to win a national championship unless some really cosmic forces start to kind of happen. So I did want to mention that here really quick. One last little story here before we get to the first break. Yikes. And I do mean yikes. A man was arrested after sparking alarm when he pointed a rifle at a school bus in Faribault today. What? Faribault PD said it was called to the 200 block of 8th Street Northeast at 7:42 a.m. after a school bus aide reported that there's an adult male approached the bus holding and pointing what appeared to be a long gun. Yeah. No shots were fired, thank God, with the bus en route to Roosevelt Early Learning Center. So this dude's waving a gun at a bus full of what? 4- and 5-year-olds? Several students were on board at the time of the incident. School bus staff told police that the man had left a home on the same block, prompting police to establish a perimeter around the property. Shortly after 9 a.m., a 38-year-old man exited the home and attempted to leave the area on foot. He was detained without incident and booked for probable cause of terroristic threats. There was a soft lockdown in place at the nearby Discovery School as police arrested the man. So, yeah, God. You wonder why I kind of go off on the guns and these Republicans that keep going out there and saying, kill, 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 and guns, guns, guns. And then all of a sudden they keep throwing rocks at that freaking beehive, man. And then they try to act stunned that the bees started stinging people. It's 9 a.m. on a Thursday. What do you get? This guy was drunk. What do you get? What's the chance that this guy had a few in him or something a little bit more chemical? How about it? Maybe I say it like that. All right, let's take a break, come back, because I want to break into the great Republican lie in Minnesota in regards to fraud, because there is a huge lie that's going on right now. And I want to call out particularly the Minnesota news media, who is not doing their damn job and actually getting the facts and putting it in perspective. I'll talk about that when I come back. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. It is the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950. Are you planning a gathering for your family, friends, or work? Then reserve space at the Park Tavern. The Park Tavern offers private and semi-private spaces, and they can accommodate any size party, large or small. They have bowling, food, and beverage packages for any budget. And remember, there are no room fees and no minimum spending requirements. And for more information or to schedule an event, call 952-929-6810 or go to parktavern.net. Make your next get-together the best get-together with help from the Park Tavern. For delicious gourmet popcorn, Popped Corn, Popped corn.com has you covered.
Popcorn offers your favorite flavors ready to go. Cheese made with real cheese, their classic mix. More than 80 great flavors. Enjoy featured flavors like Shamrock Caramel and their tasty fudge and nuts. They sell their popcorn in various bag, gift box, and tin sizes, and they ship across the USA. Visit popcorn.com and enter in discount code MATT to get 10% off your order. That's discount code MATT at popcorn, POPPED, corn.com, and make everyone smile.
Step into Forts, a fort-building wonderland at Children's Theater Company through April 5th. Theatrical elements, evolving light and soundscapes, and towers of cardboard boxes set the scene for creative play. Build the tallest fort, the longest fort, or tons of cozy little forts. Design a castle or a neighborhood. Your imagination leads the way as you play freely and create shared stories together in real life. Forts at CTC through April 5th. Spring break weekdays available. Tickets at childrenstheater.org.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Hi, I'm Mary T. Caring for others runs deep in my family. My grandmother, Rosa, was a nurse who cared for people in their homes more than a century ago. Inspired by her compassion, my mother, Margaret, and I founded the Mary T. family of companies nearly 50 years ago. Today, we continue that legacy across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Arizona, providing senior living, assisted living with memory care, home health, hospice care, rental housing, and support for people with disabilities. Each service is personal, creative, and focuses on the unique needs of those we serve. We also believe in joy and community, which is why we opened Crooner Supper Club in Fridley, a place to celebrate life with music, laughter, and connection. At Mary T., we're proud to be a Minnesota family company rooted in compassion, inclusion, and respect, and proud supporters of AM 950 and the values that this station represents. Visit MaryTinc.com to learn more.
Congratulations to Mary T, named one of the most admired CEOs of 2026 by the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal.
It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205 is the phone number. Okay, so I have talked a little bit about the Republicans in Minnesota and how they're an interesting group right now because they're trying really, really hard to get the conversation away from, hey, we welcome these people in here to attack the state that we represent, and now they're basically they're trying to push that aside and get back to fraud. Now, once again, just a little bit of background. Minnesota's been fighting fraud for a while. There have been multiple people who have taken advantage of this state, as well as every other state. There is this image, this idea that there is no state, all the rest of the states have had no problems with fraud, and that's just not true. And I'll get to that here in a sec. But Minnesota had its happen, and there were two particular cases. Well, I guess it's one specific one, which was called Feeding Our Future, which was a program that was designed to feed kids during the pandemic. And it was clearly being abused. And, a lot of people in government that should have been raising red flags didn't. But, the reality is enough people started noticing this. People did try to shut this down. And a judge said, no, you still had to pay these people, even though there was clearly fraud going on. And it's kind of a problem that we have here on the left is that we're idealists. And so we fall in love with the idea of doing something. We don't fall in love with the idea of oversight of said program. And that is a problem. You have to have some level of oversight on this stuff. You have to. But then there was other cases that came forward that were a problem. Now, the reason why the Republicans got sexually excited about this fraud was because there's an element of this which is just Republican today. Minorities were involved. And not just any minority group, the Somali community. Now, I want to remind people, Republicans for a few decades now, whenever a candidate is running against a black person in a race, they will release campaign materials to intentionally darken the skin of the black person because they know for their voters, the blacker the candidate, the more upsetting it is for them. And this is something we've had it here. There have been multiple states where this has happened, where Republicans will intentionally do this. Heck, we had Nakimi Levy Armstrong when she was arrested for the church protest. The White House actually released a photo of her not only crying, which she wasn't, but they darkened her skin to make her look blacker. That is something the Republicans, they love to have black people to rail against because the more black they are, the more they will rail against them. That's why the Republicans are so enamored with the Somali daycare story in the city, because the Somali people they're generally very black people, and that is something that resonates with their voters. Look, the blackest people we can find, and they're doing something this, and this is just a reality. This is why Republicans are going crazy about this. I want to remind people that the Republican Party brought in the Utah Mama's boy, Nick Shirley, to do this video against the Somali population, and every daycare that was featured in that racist video had no problems. They were all legitimate daycares that had filed their paperwork and doing things. The crazy part was Nick Shirley himself trying to force his way into daycares so he could film kids, minority kids, without parental consent or consent from the daycare. This is just, if we don't acknowledge what this problem is, we can't address it. And it's the fact that Republicans will get more and more aroused by a scandal the more the minority is more and more ethnic. And the fact that the Somali community was involved was manna from heaven for them. And that's really what this is about. That's why they desperately want to bring that back. Because black people, and not just black people, but really black people, that is what the Republicans want to do. And so they're trying to get people to ignore the fact that we had the federal government invade our city, kill 2 of our people, shoot another person, lie consistently, violate human rights, violate U.S. citizens' rights, dangle children in front of loved ones to try to entice them to come on out, arrested kids, disappeared kids we don't even know where they're at, used chemical sprays and irritants and gas bombs, and they did this. And the Republican Party of Minnesota welcomed them in to do this. And it is now an absolute nightmare for them because, once again, because the Trump presidency is racist as racist gets, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. They didn't just stop at the minority groups that the Minnesota Republican Party wanted them to target, and they went after everyone. And now you've pretty much wiped out the construction industry, a good chunk of the ag industry, the restaurant industry. And the Republicans know that if this election is about this, that they're going to lose because they're a bunch of racist jackasses and someone has to call them out. So guilty as charged. I don't mind calling these jerks out like this because somebody has to. So now there is this full court pressure to get the topic, the issue back to fraud, which is why yesterday Republicans in the House Oversight Committee sought to turn the page on federal law enforcement surge that killed 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis and turn the public opinion against the Trump administrations. They returned to a similar stomping ground, widespread fraud in Minnesota's social safety net programs. Apparent graft in the pandemic-era food assistance program was known, documented, and repeatedly brought to the attention of state leadership, who did nothing, not because they lacked the authority to intervene, but because they feared lawsuits, bad press, and political backlash. This, according to Minnesota expert, Kentucky Republican James Comer, the committee chair, which, by the way, let me get back to him in a sec. Comer said committee staff spoke to more than 30 people in Minnesota in preparation for the hearing, all of them Republicans, all of them either Republicans or Republican media, including many current state employees and Democrats. I'm going to guess most of them were Republicans. He raised former assistant attorney Joe Thompson's claim in December that Medicaid may have ceded $9 billion. Once again, a made-up number that was thrown out there because Joe Thompson was going to be there to help the Republicans try to win the state of Minnesota, something they have not done. An assertion that Governor Walz dismissed the following day as sensationalized, and it absolutely was sensationalized. And I'll get back to that $9 billion here in a second. The hearing took place in Washington, distracted by the U.S.-Israeli war. They came after Trump and Keith Ellison, the state attorney general, pretty hard. And the state has sued Monday to block Trump's administration's hold on $259 million in Medicaid funding, which the state officials said could scramble the budget outlook. Another thing, by the way, that the Republicans are upset with in the state is that the state is actually got a budget surplus. And they're all angry about it, but don't worry, they'll try to argue that there's some way we should give it to billionaires and millionaires. Meanwhile, by the way, you should mention the judge, Jeffrey Bryan, because I mentioned Joe Thompson. He's gone. He resigned because during the ICE invasion of Minnesota, they didn't want them to investigate the ICE agents and told them to investigate Renee Good's wife. And so pretty much most of the people in the U.S. Attorney's Office resigned. And so now you've got Daniel Rosen, who's the U.S. Attorney, and he's going to court because he's being found in contempt, or at least they're having contempt hearings about the actions of ICE, and they're not wanting to come forward. Walz, by the way, has mentioned that he wants more information on details about former Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, on the children held in the federal detention, which have disappeared again. Appearing in person, the hearing grew heated at times and covered much of the same ground as the Senate Committee on Somali Fraud in Minnesota. Once again, the entire purpose is why? Somalis! Now, once again, all the fraud in Minnesota not being conducted by Somalis. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of white guys, and there's a lot of white Republicans that commit fraud in Minnesota all the time. But you see, as Republicans don't care about that. They only care about what's the color of their skin, and will it really get my base riled up? And so this is the thing. Somalis got to be the evil villains. The state of Minnesota has done a fairly decent job of searching out and prosecuting fraud, but not all of it. And that Feeding Their Future was a nightmare. But the person leading that, funny story, not a Somali, woman named Amy Bach, white suburban woman. She was the leader of that. And they don't want to talk about that because it doesn't fit their narrative. Now, as I say all this, I know that the Republicans' argument is going to be, yeah, but fraud is there, Matt, and you're just pro-fraud. No, I have been very clear. I am against fraud. I think that Democrats need to do a better job of getting oversight into these bills when they happen. And now that we're getting it, I mean, it's basically, it's now definitely going to happen on a much more larger scale. So I'm not for fraud. But the narrative that you are hearing being pushed by Republicans left and right is that the fraud that's happening in Minnesota is of some sort of epic scale that has never been seen before. Or it's the 41st worst one in the nation, because that's actually the truth number. 40 states actually have far more fraud than the state of Minnesota. 40 states, and this according to the liberal outlet, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services under Brainworm McGee, and their 2025 Medicare fee-for-service supplemental improper payout data, which is a barn burner of a reader. But if you do actually read it, you do come to the realization is they're not attacking Minnesota because of fraud. They're attacking Minnesota because we're proud blue through and through, and we've told the Republican Party to go blank itself enough times that they are furious at us. So now it's basically about trying to just, I guess, invade us and have them installed as leaders because Republicans can't win this state to save their cabooses. More on this when I come on back. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts.
So come check out their pizza and wine bar, or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout, along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
Hearts and beliefs collide in the poignant comedy, The Cake, playing at Theater in the Round. Della is a talented Southern baker whose life changes when she's asked to create a wedding cake for her late best friend's daughter, who's marrying a woman. The production offers a tender and funny look at the complex intersection of faith and family. The Cake runs February 20th through March 15th at Theater in the Round. Tickets and more information at theaterintheround.org.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. I've been telling you about Snap Construction, the company AM 950 trusts for all roofing and siding needs. Now that spring is here and summer is around the corner, now is a great time to find out why AM 950 trusts Snap Construction. Ryan, the owner, and his team at Snap Construction have been great to work with, and they have enjoyed working with our listeners.
Hi, this is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners at AM 950. What a great group of people and a great radio station. I personally want to thank all the listeners that we've had the opportunity to work with. At Snap Construction, we look forward to working with many more of you when it comes to your roofing, siding, windows, and insulation. Don't just take Chad's word for it. Google Snap Construction, arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the Twin Cities metro. We led this community with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate. Call today, 612-333-SNAP, 612-333-SNAP, or visit us online, snapconstruction.com.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. The end of winter is finally on the horizon, and you're going to start thinking about all that nasty crud that's built up in your home over these last few months. Call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to help get you an early start on the spring cleanup. Zero Res removes winter's buildup and lingering odors, giving your home a fresh, spring-ready feel. This month, get Zero Resified from Minnesota's #1 carpet cleaner. Buy one room, get another free. Buy another room of carpet cleaning, get another room of carpet done for free. Get the picture? Also this month, get a free size upgrade on every whole home air duct cleaning package. Don't you love when you buy your favorite beverage and get a free size upgrade? That's what Zero Res is doing this month with their whole home air duct cleaning package. Start spring cleaning with a free upgrade and pay less for more fresh. Call Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same, Zero Res. With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilliup. Late tonight, a chance of rain with a low of 45. Then Friday, rain and thunderstorms expected with a high of 55. Dinosaur World is taking over Children's Theater Company for an immersive tour where you can feel the roar and even smell their stinky breath. Get ready to face a T-Rex and be sneezed on by a Triceratops. Dinosaur World runs now through April 5th. Get your tickets at childrenstheater.org.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Go, girls, go, 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 go. We girls gonna take control. You boys better know.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. By the way, let me do a little bit of programming here. First of all, coming up after my show on the Blue Amp Network, it is, of course, our good friend Cliff Schechter, who is awesome. And he's going to hang out with Joe Walsh. It's Tequila Talk tonight at 5 o'clock. Well, 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock East Coast. Don't mean to screw up you guys. 6 o'clock the East Coast, 5 o'clock Central. Tequila Talk with Cliff and Joe Walsh. Be prepared for that. Great content. And by the way, Blue Amp, if you're not following Blue Amp on Substack, you need to be. They're building a nice little network, and I'm tickled pink that I'm part of this. So by all means, I'm glad to be here. Make sure you're checking it out. Tequila Talk after the show. Now, here in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, we got Native Roots Radio with I Am Awake. This is one of the most important radio shows I have ever seen in my life. It is insanely important, and it should be everywhere. It's Native American news, and you just don't get this anywhere else. Talk about marginalized to the point where this, I think, is the only major Native American news show in the country. They do, I think, a fantastic job. Robert Pilot and crew will talk about Native American issues. Listen to that. That's on after my show. It's a privilege to be the lead-in for that show here. And then tonight, Patty Vasquez coming up in the 9 o'clock hour here, my bestie from Chicago. And then the 10 o'clock hour, it's Ghost Box Radio. Do you like ghosts? Do you like psychics? Do you like aliens? Do you like them all in one with peanut butter and chocolate? There's a reason that Greg Bakken does not like me doing promos for his program. He actually has got a fantastic program, and it's old school radio that you will love. Ghost Box Radio with Greg Bakken, 10 o'clock tonight. Make sure you're listening to that right here on AM 950, 952-946-6205. You got my Bigfoot in my alien. All right. And then also, by the way, follow me on the socials. Substack, Matt McNeil Show on Substack. Facebook is Progressives. This is the next Matt McNeil Show. Matthew McNeil 1 on Threads and on Blue Sky. That's where I'm mostly at. You'll find me over there doing the little tweets and the twinks in there. Not Twitter, but Blue Sky. And you can find me there at Matt McNeil Show. Matt McNeil Show on Blue Sky, 952-946-6205. So, talking about the fact that the Republicans are desperate to get us back to talking about fraud because they feel as if that's the only issue that can save them this election cycle in Minnesota, even though they're the ones that basically told the ICE agents to go beat and kill those people. And that's what the Republican Party wanted. And they had it, and now all of a sudden it blew up in their face because people are like, what are you doing? We don't like fascism and authoritarianism. And the Republicans are like, who, us? Hey, why don't we talk about fraud? Well, let's talk about fraud for a second here, because there is this narrative that the Republicans are allowed in this city and in this state to push forward that Minnesota is the only state in the union where this is going on. It's the only place. And you know who it is? It's those Somali people that are doing it. And that's not true. And by the way, the Somali population, I love the Somali population. If you've not had Somali food, Ethiopian food, it's fantastic. They're part of the great melting pot here with a lot of great other communities running from the Germans and the Swedes and the Irish that got here to the Italians to the Hispanic population to the Hmong population to the Somali population. Welcome. I think we are better together, frankly, and we kind of showed it with ICE agents. So when we bond together, we can do things together. So there is these narratives, these racist-based elements that the Republican Party wants to put out. So I'm going to encourage people, and I put a link to this on my social media pages. Hey, news media, do your effing job and look at the numbers. And if you go to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 2025 Medicare fee for service supplemental improper payout data. So this is the report that their own Department of Health and Human Services put out in regards to fraud that's going on within the system. Now, as a percentage of overall improper payments. So this is the percentage of payments that are being made out of these programs, out of Medicare. And once again, I've been told by two people that Medicaid actually mimics this almost identically. That if you look at the percentage of overall improper payments, Minnesota's not number one. That'd be California, followed by Texas, followed by Florida, followed by New York, and then Maryland and Ohio and New Jersey and Virginia and Pennsylvania, and Illinois, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Massachusetts, Missouri, Arizona, Michigan, Kentucky, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, Indiana, Iowa, Nevada, Oklahoma, Washington, Colorado, Wisconsin, Arizona, and then on the cusp of the bottom 30, the bottom 20, I should say, is Minnesota. Minnesota comes in at a overall rate of fraud at 0.8%. To give you an idea, California is at 13.9%. Texas is at 8.6%. Florida is at 7.3%. New York, 5.8%. Ohio, 4.5%. Minnesota, their fraud rate, percentage of overall improper payments, is 0.8%. Not even a whole percentage point. 0.8. And okay, where it even becomes more ludicrous is when you look at the column here, improper payment rate, which factors the amount of improper payments versus the population that they're serving. And by far, the biggest state of fraud is Wyoming. If you look at the number of people in Wyoming and the amount of fraud that they're having, their improper payment rate in Wyoming, Republican as Republican gets, 18.5%. Almost 20% of all the payments made in Wyoming are fraudulent. Not only that, you can, let me pull up another few other ones here. Kentucky, remember I was talking about Comer, the authority on Minnesota fraud? They're at 11.3%. The state of South Carolina is at 13.7%. The state of Texas is at 9.2%. Substantially higher than Minnesota's rate, which is 3.4%. And as a matter of fact, when you put it all on the scale, Minnesota ranks as 41 in improper payment rate. 41. 4-1. Well behind most of the rest of the country. Those are called facts. That is called reality. This is me looking at the Department of Health and Human Services' own report and saying that fraud, and once again, any fraud, bad, agreed. But if you're looking for a place to start focusing on frickin' fraud, I'd head to Wyoming. I'd head to South Carolina. I'd head to Kentucky. I would not go to Minnesota because we're the 41st worst state, which means there are 40 states much worse than us when it comes to the amount of fraud. Now, you might be saying to yourself, what, Matt? This doesn't make any sense because the local frickin' media hasn't reported any of this. Exactly. And they can. All they have to do is go get the stunningly titled 2025 Medicare fee-for-service simple mental improper payment data from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It's their own damn report. Minnesota actually does a pretty good job. On overall fraud, we're better than average by far. But when it comes to percentage of population and the amount of fraud, we're not even close to the worst state. Yet, when was the last time you heard any news outlet say fraud in Minnesota, although is sensationalized because why? Somali people. And the racists love the fact that they can point to the Somali population and say, villain! Because they can't go to South Carolina and point to the white dude in the rusted out trailer home that's ripping off the state and say him. Because that's too relatable for their voting base. The same thing goes in regards to the entire argument of why they were here for immigration. People said, oh, immigration, and because once again, what was the Republican argument? The Somali population, it's 20% of the population are undocumented workers. Not even close. Minnesota is the 21st, is ranked as 21st in the country with the number of undocumented people in it. 21st. Well behind Texas and Florida and Georgia and Ohio and Arizona, Republican stalwart states. See, is the lie here that's being told is we have an undocumented person problem. We don't really. The lie here that's being told is we have a fraud problem. We don't really. These are issues that Republicans have been able, without any pushback from the effing frickin' Minnesota news media, to put out there as standard truths when they're not. Because, let's face it, the news media also loves the fact that they can slap Somali on these stories and it will get papers. It will get the racist scrambling for the frickin' newsstand. Or the racist staying with the 10 o'clock news for a few minutes. No, the real reason Minnesota is being targeted by Republicans is because those inept jackasses, impotent. How about I go with that? Their impotence at being able to win. Their failure at being able to perform when it matters most shows up bright and sunny in Minnesota. Good old Midwestern state. And they can't win here to save themselves because we're not stupid enough to vote for them. We see exactly who they are. And they have to fix the frickin' system to try to have a chance. And so through their impotence at being able to win the state, now they've gotten to the point of where they're fantasizing about bringing in federal military forces to basically arrest all the Democrats and put me in charge. And then I'll be the governor. And then I'll make out with my high school girlfriend. Oh, my God, I think it's so hot. You guys suck. I remember when you guys said, we're going to secede the western part of the state of Minnesota and go to South Dakota. We said so long because you guys didn't understand that your counties are the moocher counties, that your counties can't pay your own bills, that you need the Twin Cities metro area to subsidize your counties. And we were like, oh my God, can you imagine how much more money we'd have as a state if we lost those dragging anchor counties off to the west? And funny, all of a sudden, when you guys realize your talking points, your Twitter memes didn't match up to reality, you shut up pretty quick. And I talked about a few weeks ago how back during the George Floyd problems, that there actually seems to have been some sort of plot to try to overthrow Governor Walz at that point with the Senate Majority Leader, Paul Gazelka, according to a story from, at that point, the police union head, Bob Kroll. No, this is about them. They know they can't win here, and they're impotent. And their rage about their impotence is boiling over. The inexcusable part is the freaking news media in this city that basically is going with their racist, anti-Minnesota tone without even a basic freaking fact check. Because if this freaking idiot, me, can go and do this, then why the hell are the journalists not able to do that? Exactly. News media, do your freaking job. I've posted a link to this, the ever exciting 2005 Medicare fee-for-service supplemental improper data payment data report from the Department of Health and Human Services. Do your damn jobs, polish off your freaking journalism degrees, and go to page 27 and you'll see what I'm talking about. God help us all. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. One more segment. When we do return, it is the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday.
There really is no place like home. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Home Health. When you're faced with an illness or an injury, being able to stay at home and receive care is important. Our home health offers a wide range of services, including skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, aides, homemakers, in-home respite care, and 24/7 live-in care. We'll work closely with your primary care provider to come up with an individualized plan for you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Hearts and beliefs collide in the poignant comedy, The Cake, playing at Theater in the Round. Della is a talented Southern baker whose life changes when she's asked to create a wedding cake for her late best friend's daughter, who's marrying a woman. The production offers a tender and funny look at the complex intersection of faith and family. The Cake runs February 20th through March 15th at Theater in the Round. Tickets and more information at theaterintheround.org.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Hey, Chanhassen and Eden Prairie, it's Alex with Buzz Cut Mowing. Why wake up early, freeze, and shovel snow when I can handle it for you? I provide fast, reliable snow removal so your driveway and sidewalks stay clear, safe, and stress-free all winter long. Relax, enjoy your morning coffee, and let me do the heavy lifting. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com today and make this winter easier, warmer, and worry-free with Buzz Cut Mowing, because nobody likes shoveling snow.
Hi, this is Frank Brown with Minuteman Press Uptown. It's election season. If you're campaigning for a candidate, your outreach needs top quality union printed materials, from direct mail and yard signs to door hangers, buttons, t-shirts, and flyers. Minuteman Uptown is your union shop to get people to the polls. We print everything. We'll keep your candidate top of mind, target your message with a laser focus, and maximize your voter turnout efforts. Get started today at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
Peace of mind shouldn't cost a fortune. We keep things simple at Schroman Law because we believe planning for your estate and end-of-life care shouldn't be stressful or expensive. Every client relationship starts with a free consultation so clients have the information they need before making important decisions. From there, we work closely with clients to ensure they are choosing the most efficient and cost-effective plans for their specific needs. Schedule a free consultation today at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. By the way, once again, I got Tequila Talk with Cliff Schechter and Joe Walsh coming up here in just about 5 or so minutes or so. So get ready. Get your beverage of choice. Me, I am drinking hibiscus tea. It's good for the throat. Mm-hmm. Dead serious, too. It is good for the throat. Try that out. All right. So one of the things I have talked about for years, is this one little stunning reality, okay? You got one trip around on the spinning rock. You all do. We all have one. What in the world are you doing miserable? And I want to just direct this at most of the Republicans in the state of Minnesota, because you guys are clearly freaking miserable. Because if you're not miserable, then what you're saying is the quality of life that the Democrats have given you in this state is appealing to you, but you loathe it so much. Good luck with that. No, good luck with all that. The truth is that if you're unhappy, I'm going to be, I know this might sound snarky, but it's not. Leave. Go. You've got one life to live. What are you doing miserable? You're working in a job you can't stand, or you're living someplace you just hate. Why are you here? I bring this up because I've got a neighbor, or I had a neighbor. She was one of the original owners when we bought our house, and this was, 25 years ago we bought our house in our neighborhood. And unfortunately, tragically, about 20 years ago, her husband passed away very unexpectedly. She has been in the house by herself, and she's actually started dating some guy a few years back. And apparently this guy was from Texas, and he's a big Trump fan. And it kind of stuck out like a sore thumb this last election cycle when Trump was the big sign on their yard. And as a matter of fact, most of us have given her the one finger salute to let her know, how we really felt about her with Trump, because boy, that sure hasn't gone well. Yeah. Anyway, the other day we noticed there was a U-Haul truck out there by our house, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of stuff in the yard. And my wife talked to one of the neighbors and said, are they moving? What's going on? Are they just moving some stuff to storage? She goes, oh no, she's gone. What? She's gone. She sold the house to one of these agencies that will just buy a house outright in any condition, packed all the stuff that she wanted to take with her, and left. And so all the stuff, the dumpster that's now in front of their place, the U-Haul truck, this was all stuff that was there. And this is the company that bought the house, basically cleaning it out to get it ready to sell to someone else. Now, I mean, that's, there are people that do that. I mean, you're going to be moving in with somebody else and they have a lot of the stuff that you already have, so you don't need it. That makes sense. But I actually, she's moved to Texas apparently, which good luck with that. Wow. That is going to be an eye-opening experience. But you want to know the truth is? Good for her. Good for her. You clearly were not happy living in liberal hell, Minnesota. You got one chance at life. Texas is beautiful in some places. It's absolutely gorgeous. Barbecue. You got Texas barbecue is delicious. A lot of great places down there. By all means, enjoy your life. I'm happier there, and you're probably happier too. There you go. Republicans, take her lead. You can go in any direction, but you probably don't want to go north. That's Canada, and that will basically freak you out. But there you go. Go live your best life. Native Roots Radio up next. We're back tomorrow. Until then, see ya.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of